Donald Trump held a cabinet meeting yesterday, and it was just a contest to see who could suck up to Trump the most disgustingly. And I have to tell you that the winner was Attorney General Pam Bondi. We're going to look at what has become, there's this really funny thing. Historically, presidents have allowed the press corps into cabinet meetings, like before it starts or at the very end. But what you see on TV is not the cabinet meeting. There's a cabinet meeting that takes place outside of the view of cameras. With Trump, this is the cabinet meeting. The cabinet meeting is they get everybody together, they let the press in, and that is the meeting. And it's basically a contest to suck up to Donald Trump. We start with Pam Bondi, who tells Trump, we've never had 100 days like this ever. These have been the best first 100 days ever under a president.
Pam?
President, your first 100 days has far exceeded that of any other presidency in this country, ever, ever. Never seen anything like it. Thank you.
Oh man! Of course, the speculation is they must be dating. Why else? But no, this is the way everyone is expected to behave in front of Donald Trump. Here is Pam Bondi turning to the press and giving the press a statistic that they should want to report.
3,400 kilos of fentanyl since you've been your last 100 days, which saved, are you ready for this, media? 258 million lives. Kids are dying every day because they're taking this junk laced with something else. They don't know what they're taking. They think they're buying a Tylenol or an Adderall and a Xanax, and it's laced with
an Adderall. Bondi seems to think that 75% of the total U.S. population of 340 million, right? 258 million lives have been saved, but because Trump got elected president and stopped fentanyl. Now, on Twitter, she said it was 119 million lives that were saved over fentanyl by Trump. Now she says it's 258 million lives. Soon it'll be 1 billion American lives were saved. And you'll go, but we don't have a billion Americans. And she'll say, well, that's what the fake news media will tell you. Needless to say, thank goodness, thanks to Donald Trump, we avoided hundreds of millions of fentanyl deaths. Now, on a serious note, you know what does save lives? Not 258 million, but it does save lives. Making Narcan available so that more people can survive overdoses. And you know who's looking to take that away? Take a guess. Doug Burgum, the Interior Secretary, he cranks up the suck-up-ism. He can't quite get to where Pam Bondi got, but God bless him, he's trying.
In your first term, when I had a chance to work with you as governor, you were courageous. The thing that's empowering this amazing group of people around this table, and you've probably assembled the greatest cabinet ever, is that this time you're not just courageous, you're actually fearless. Right. And it's your fearlessness to take on the issues that other presidents would not touch, whether it's the work that we're doing with successfully streamlining and right-sizing government, or whether it's taking on the issues at the border, or whether it's embracing the power we need to win the arms race. You're fearlessly doing that, and that creates and just all of us can sprint because you're running ahead. So thank you.
The cabinet meeting has become an opportunity to just praise Donald Trump. We had a little bit of a bonus, which is Marco Rubio going full authoritarian during the cabinet meeting. This is Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, and he just went nuts.
Secretary Rubio, can I ask you a question? You brought up El Salvador in your remarks. Have you been in touch with El Salvador about returning Abrego Garcia? Has a formal request from this administration been made?
Well, I would never tell you that. And you know who else I'll never tell? A judge. Because the conduct of our foreign policy belongs to the President of the United States and the executive branch, not some judge. So we will conduct foreign policy appropriately if we need to, but I'll never discuss it. And no one will ever make us discuss it because that's how foreign policy works.
There you go. Judges be damned. Law and order should be flushed. We don't care what courts say. What we do is only between me and the president, says Marco Rubio, really respecting the judiciary and the rule of law of the United States. Another bonus, J.D. Vance, the almost completely missing in action vice president, scolding the media in the room. He doesn't like what they are talking about.
I've seen the data, I've monitored it, I've looked at it. But the most underreported fact of the first 100 days is that we came in with a massive recruitment shortfall. And in 100 days of Secretary Hegseth and President Trump's leadership, we now have people breaking down the doors to join our military. To the media assembled here, it's a really interesting question. Why has that happened? Completely aside from the fact that I think it's a good thing or I think that President Trump deserves political credit for it, why did we go from a military where people didn't want to serve to now all of a sudden they do want to serve? That's a story you guys should cover, but compared to that, how much time have you instead focused on the fact that we deported an MS-13 gang member with a valid deportation order? And why is it that the press is so focused on the fake BS rather than what's really going on in the country?
And of course, he's lying again. The valid deportation order regarding Abrego Garcia that he's referring to was actually a withholding of removal status that resulted from 2019 hearings. What matters is that in 2025, it was illegal to deport him to El Salvador. It is this affirmative act by JD and Donald Trump's government that requires due process. The actual deportation requires due process. Kilmar Abrego Garcia didn't get it. And then finally, on the topic of fluoride, and we'll get back to RFK, on the topic of fluoride, RFK says, the more you get, the stupider you are.
Florida yesterday passed a bill to ban supplemental fluoride. I'm confident Governor DeSantis is going to sign that. We are working, Lee Zeldin and I are working together to change the federal fluoride regulations, to change the recommendations, and we're looking at the science now. I want to point out that in August, the National Toxicity Program, which was an arm of the NIH, did a meta review of all the science on fluoride and found that there's a direct inverse correlation between fluoride exposure and low IQ in children. So the more you get, the stupider you are.
The more fluoride you get, the stupider you are. And of course, as is often the case with medical claims and all of these things, there is a kernel of truth there. It is true that there are studies that show that exposure to very high levels of fluoride, much higher than what you would ever give anyone or put in the water. Fluoride exists naturally in certain water sources, mostly in other parts of the world. And studies have been done. What is the correlation with regard to IQ in these parts of the world where the water naturally has very high fluoride levels? It's not good. That correlation does seem to exist. Very high fluoride levels, lower IQ on average. Is it because of the fluoride? It might be. We don't know. But that has nothing to do with the very low levels of fluoride that we use in municipal water systems in the United States. So as often, the devil's in the details. There's some kernel in there. RFK usually doesn't include it. And we'll get back to that with some of these other medical claims in a little bit. After researching, writing, refining, The Echo Machine, my book, is finally out. This is not just a book about how American politics got so broken. It's also about what's happening right now and what we can still do to stop things from getting worse. Trump's been back in power. The results have been even more catastrophic than many feared, with targeting of political opponents and gutting democratic institutions, laying the groundwork to even further consolidate power. But the thing is that none of this is inevitable. The same forces that brought us here can be countered if we understand how they work and what to do about them. And that's what The Echo Machine is all about. Some say that without corporate media backing, books like this can't succeed. I think we can prove them wrong. You can get The Echo Machine right now at davidpakman.com/echo on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Audible, Kindle, or by calling any local bookstore and asking them to order it. This book is more important than ever. If you care about what happens next, and I do, check out The Echo Machine today at davidpakman.com/echo.